Hello, DFC, and welcome back to another lesson in grade 9 English. And today we're going to be looking at an additional storytelling element. So previously we learned about elements like character, theme, setting, atmosphere, perspective. Today's is about conflict. And our learning goal today is we're going to learn the various types of conflict and why conflict is important as a storytelling element. First things first, I do want you to watch this video, and if you're doing that, you're on the right track, so thank you for doing that. Next, so task 2, I want you to then add to your journal, and if you don't know where your journal is, I have instructions right here about where you can find it, and so we're up to session number 8. All right, so here's a lesson about conflict. Conflict is simply the problem or difficulty experienced by the main character in the story. So it is the struggle, it is the problem, it is something that is solved by the end of the story. But not always though. And there are 5 different types of conflict. We can have human versus human, human versus society and culture. That's where our main character isn't fitting in with other people. Human versus nature, that's where your main character is struggling to survive in nature. Maybe it's against wild animals or the harsh elements, but they are trying to survive. 4 is human versus self. It's where people are getting into their own way about they want to accomplish a different thing than what they actually do. They are essentially their own biggest enemy. And I find a lot of life is human versus self conflict. We want to do one thing, but we end up doing another, and that creates conflict in our lives. And then finally, we have human versus supernatural. This is where human are pitted against creatures that are not of this world. It could be monsters, ghosts, demons, or Wendigo, which is a creature in Native American mythology. So I have some examples of conflict in the stories that we've looked at so far. So Yashu tries to steal an ember from Grandfather Fire. Joe River wants to take a picture of a beaver but he actually shoots it. So that's an example of human versus self. We have Sedna and the Loon Spirit, but also Sedna and her father. So that's the story that has 2 different types of conflict. And yeah, stories can have multiple types of conflict, but I'm only going to ask you to identify one today. And then finally, all of humanity is wiped out by the other's use of nuclear weapons. That's an example of humans destroying humans. Therefore, it's human versus human conflict. So today's story, which can be found here, is about, so just click on this link and it'll take you to the story. It's a very short story, by the way, only 1.5 pages, right here. But it's about the Wendigo. The Wendigo, for those who are unfamiliar with it, is a mythological creature that you can become a Wendigo by being a cannibal. Cannibal is eating a member of your own species. Obviously, we don't do that. We'll eat other animals of other species, but we don't eat our own. But a Wendigo is what happens when you eat the flesh of your own species. So you turn into this ravenous creature who wants nothing more than human flesh. It's like the Native American version of a zombie. So today's story is about a cannibal, or the cannibal spirit called Cannibal Woman. And after you read the story, I'd like you to answer these questions. So imagine that you're telling the story to an audience of children trying to scare them. How would you want to tell the story to accomplish this goal? So how would you speak, and what kind of body language would you use to scare those little kids? How are you going to make them cry? I want you to tell me that. Now, normally we would listen to this story while I read it in class. So I read, you guys listen. But I just want you to imagine that now. So why do you think that listening to someone read a story while you follow along can help people better understand a story? And what are 3 things that you could do to become a better listener in class? So you get 1 mark for the first question, 3 marks for the other part. Question 3, what is one similarity and one difference between your relationship with your mother and the relationship between Gotish Sawash, that's our main character right here, the little girl, and her mother? So as I mentioned previously, so you get 2 marks for that. For question 4, every story has a conflict or a problem. Why do you think a conflict is necessary for a story? So just one sentence as to why a story needs conflict. 5, I want you to tell me what type of conflict this story is. So which of these 5 is this story? And who is the conflict between? So you get 1 mark for, I'll write that in, telling me what type it is, and then another mark for telling me who it's between. Number 6, why do you think Gotish Sawash decided to go against her mother? That also can help you answer question number 5. And then finally, I want you to read this Wikipedia entry for a man named Jack Fiddler. Jack Fiddler is a real-life person. And if you're from the Deer Lake or Sandy Lake region, you may even be related to him. Actually, last year I had a student who was his grandson. So I want you to read this entry. It's fairly short, but it's based on real life. But I want you to answer this question. Answer, prove, explain. Do you believe that Wendigos exist? You can start by saying, I do believe, or I don't believe Wendigos exist because, and then continue your answer with some proof and an explanation. So you get 3 marks for that. In total, it's out of 20 marks. You get 16 for the questions, 4 marks for the spelling, grammar, and punctuation. And just a fun fact, this story setting takes place in Quetico, which is just outside of Thunder Bay. So this is a local story. So just a fun fact for you. If you're wondering where the story is set, well, not too far from here. All right, everyone, if you have any questions, as usual, I'll be online every afternoon, and I hope this video helps you out. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you later. Bye.